I'm an assistant professor at the University of Haifa. I've been there for a year and a half, and before that, I was a chief data officer at Carmel Ventures, which has, like, a wide presentation here at the conference. By the way, I teach data science, and I kind of keep bumping into my students over here at this conference all the time. And before that, I was in the Valley. I worked for LinkedIn and HP Labs. So I have quite a lot of experience in social networks. And I kind of use this experience in this work that I'm going to be talking about, but it is in a different domain. So let me start with saying that information is money. That's kind of obvious, right? So if we knew something about, like, companies that we're not working for, we would be doing, like, much better investments, for example, or we could be doing much better partnerships. What's going on with our competitor? And there are ways of figuring that out. I hope that, well, at least let's put it like that. In this talk, I'm definitely going to talk about all the legal ways to figure out what's going on with your competitors, okay? So there are, like, some ways are just data mining in press releases, not big data, interesting data, but not extremely big. Social media is very noisy, but it's definitely doable. What I'm going to be talking about today is patents. All the IP world, and this is the world that, like, it's kind of, there is some voodoo about it. Something is happening that no one understands what's going on, right? Why? So in some industries, there are too many patents and, like, too much data to process. In some industries, you just don't have patents at all. Here, I can't really help. I'm talking about industries where patents are kind of, it's a part of the job. And the basic question is just, it's just very complex. You can't really read this patent. You can't understand what's going on out there. This is the big trouble. The good news is that all the patent data is publicly available, at least the USPTO patent data, the data of American Patent Office. And this is just 300 gigabytes of data. Yeah, it's a kind of biggish. It's not really big data, if you think about it. So we cannot read, at least I cannot read patents. Probably you can, I cannot. But the machine can do it. And it's doing it pretty well, actually, because the language of the patent is very structured. They basically copy-paste pieces of text. And we can recognize, the machine can recognize this. And lucky us, we have all the infrastructures in the world to process this data nowadays. There are quite a few analytics tools that work with patents, but, okay, I'll skip my criticism. They just really go beyond some type of simple search. Here is an example, okay? Like, I want to figure out what's going on in the area of radars in the world, radars. How do I do that? So I type radar you have Google patent search, right? It's not just regular search, it's specific search for patents. You end up with, if you see it well here, 4 million hits. What is this? Does this mean that this area is, like, very popular? I actually did my homework. I figured out that there are about 40,000 patents that mention radars. So what is this 4 million? I don't know. And there is another trouble, like, say the query is audit. When we say audit, right, it's like, financial audit. It turns out that in patents, the word audit is being used for pretty much anything but financial domain, like optical network audit tool. So, like, if you want to figure out what's going on in financial auditing, you just can't. You can type in financial audit, you will end up with 6 patents. And trust me, it's just, it's not even 1% of whatever is out there. So we are in trouble. We have to solve it in some way. What we have done, by the way, here I probably need to stop and say that I'm not just an assistant professor at the University of Haifa. I'm also a CTO of a startup. And so what we have done so far, we have built a Google Earth of patents. We took all the patents available in USPTO, about 7.5 million of them, patent and patent applications, and we compared each one with each one semantically. Well, not really, but we took 7 million patents and we found, for every patent, we found the closest semantically patents around it. So basically, you think about, like, towns that are close to each other, those are patents that talk about the same topic. It has nothing to do with citations in the patents. I don't trust citations. People cite things that they don't want to cite, but they are obligated and stuff like that. I don't trust this. This is semantic connections between those patents. Once you see the entire map of all the patents in USPTO, you actually, well, you can't really visualize it, but you can drill down in every area and see exactly what's going on. And it looks like I just want to show you how it works. For example, you can talk about a company like, say, eBay, just because I started working with their data. So how it works, here we go. We found all the eBay patents. It's not the problem. The problem is to cut the area around eBay patents in the way that it takes all the related patents inside this picture. That's not really trivial. Once you have that, you can analyze what is going on within eBay, within eBay IP or R&D, in comparison to what's going on around eBay in the same area. So for example, here we have 550 eBay patents, and we found about 250 patents that are very closely related to eBay. If you show it on a map, it looks like a whole mess, but Gephi is a good tool. First of all, we can kind of squeeze them together into small clusters. Every green dot here is an eBay patent. Every red dot is a patent of someone else who is very semantically related to eBay patent. And now look, we can expand. Once we expand, out of the sudden things become much more clear, much clearer. So for example, here's an area that eBay is controlling. Those are only eBay patents. I have no idea what those patents are all about, but I know that no one can touch it. No one can sue eBay on those patents because they kind of close the area. Versus, look for example, this small area, right? You have green eBay patents surrounded by red patents of someone else. I would say eBay needs to take a look what's going on with those particular patents. You see, I started talking about 550, ended up with 3 that might be problematic. In another area, this is a remarkable area, right? When you see like red guys and green guys like in an interaction like that, something happened out there. And I actually went and checked. It turned out that something did happen. There was a guy named Thomas Woolston who wrote patents, sued eBay, got $25 million. So you don't need to understand on patents. You just look at the picture. Out of the sudden, you see what's going on with the company, and the company might not want to disclose this information. You know, they write patents, they have to disclose, and we can analyze this data. Want to see the map of Apple? Apple, here we go. Yeah, a little bit more patents here. And let me zoom in and look at the areas. No, wait 1 second. Here we go. Look at that. What is this? How do you call it? What do you think it is? You call it paranoia. There is an area that Apple really wants to hold. We are not giving out anything. This is our territory. By the way, there are quite a few red dots out there. Those are patent applications issued on the names of Apple engineers. So this is the entire area is pure Apple patents. I don't know why they want to do it. I don't know why it's so important for them to hold this particular area. But they invested millions of dollars, probably even dozens of millions, to create this dense cluster. Now, look at this one. How do you call this? You call it a war. So I actually went and checked, and it turned out that there is a litigation in this area. Someone's used Apple on a lot of money. And you know what? I'm not an expert, but just from a picture, the amount of red guys versus the amount of green guys in the middle, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what this Apple situation here is. I think it's kind of shaky. Look at this one. This is probably even more interesting, this area. You see this area? How do you call this? You call it a nightmare. So this is the area that was constructed by Apple, and the density of patents in this area means that they knew what they were doing. Once you have a cluster that is sparse, it's quite a big cluster, but it's pretty sparse, it probably means that this cluster was created organically. So someone was writing patents, Apple people and someone from outside Apple were writing patents on the same topic. Once you have a cluster like that, guys, you start the litigation, there are like millions or even billions of dollars out here. Those areas are really problematic. Guys, I'm not an Apple person. I don't work for Apple. I have no idea what's going on with their R&D. Just from this picture, out of the sudden, you can talk about a company that has been very secretive about what they're doing inside. And this is totally publicly available information. Did I tell you that story that I can bring down the stock market? So the story goes like that. So there are companies that when they issue patents, they cite prior art properly. And we know what they have to cite because we know what's going on around every patent in USPTO. Okay? And there are companies that don't. They do cite some patents once in a while, but they just don't do it systematically. And the big question is, why? This is not the question for you, and this is not the question for me. This is the question for a judge in Texas. And once someone asks a judge, I don't know what can happen. So it can be, potentially, it can be a situation that the judge will decide that all the patents that were issued by a particular company are just not valid, because they systematically fail to cite the prior art, which is by the law, they have to cite the prior art. So if the judge decides like that, pretty much all the intangibles of a big company are just out. The company goes down and brings down the whole market. I know what the companies are. It's just somewhere here on this computer. Don't steal it. So it sounds like a joke, but it's kind of serious. So I'm not going to, bring down the market, but those tools are pretty powerful. There are billions of dollars sitting somewhere in pictures like that. You just need to figure out what to do with it and how to use it for investment or for competitive analytics or for being better, building better partnerships, or probably for writing better patents or citing better prior art, more relevant prior art. So we have the tool. The tool is out there, and Amazon.com, by the way, we are totally redesigning it and rebranding. We have the new name for the company. It's like it's coming. What I wanted to do is, it looks like my talk was pretty short. I showed you whatever we can do. I'll go to the lobby, and if you guys want me to build a map like that for a company of your choice, I'll do it for you totally free. I have a slide on that, just because I'm an academic, right? Yeah, so the slide is like that. First, come and study data science with us. Second, use our tool. And I can also build those maps for those of you who are interested to go to figure out what's going on with your competitors. Well, looks it was pretty short, and we have 10 minutes for coffee, finally.